Welcome to Tom and David's Odd Shaped Balls, a weekly look at all things rugby and NFL. So, last weekend of the Six Nations, some interesting results.
Indeed.
Should we start with the most interesting one?
Yes.
I mean, probably no one... I presume the Italian team was handing out limoncello in Cardiff. I presume this is the only reason. But Wales looked atrocious.
Yes, they did. And Alan Wynne-Jones did not look fit. Mm-hmm. And they said that they were going to give him his 150th cap in front of a home crowd.
Yeah.
And even that statement sounded like they knew he wasn't fit. And he's a fucking god amongst men. And to play him when he wasn't, fit, it just seems bonkers. It's a huge lack of respect for Italy, and Italy responded in kind.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't been shy about slagging Italy off on this on the pod. But I think you're right. I think interesting that Alan Wynne-Jones didn't make that decision for himself and just say like...
Presumably not. I don't think players get to pick themselves.
Well, I mean, in terms of saying whether he was fit or not.
Oh, right, I see.
Because like Sam Warburton famously used to, when they asked him to come back, would be like, I'm not ready yet. I need a few games for Cardiff before I get my up to speed. But obviously Alan Wynne, back of his mind, was like, it's only Italy.
Yeah.
It's like that Ray Parler. It's only Ray Parler. It's fine. He's going to put it in the top bag. But they came to Cardiff with like a level of passion that I don't think has been seen since the Sergio Parise years.
Their back three were just brilliant, and their type five were fighting for the ball on the ground, won all those penalties fair and square. They were controlling the ball on the ground, and completely the type five of Wales were not doing the same. They weren't fighting for it, and it shows you that if you nap against them, then
if you are fully asleep, if you are not conscious, if you're laid horizontally, they do have a chance.
Yes, that's definitely a chance.
Yeah,
and it's going to put to bed all this talk of them being kicked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, Georgia wouldn't do that to, and Wales beat South Africa in the last series. So, I was wondering, like, did Pivac just say to all the boys, like, last game, feel free to go out and have a beer, enjoy yourself. And then they've all turned up the next day, and he's like, "Well, that's beg for it, isn't it?" Fucking hell!
I mean, you can only think is that they didn't give it the respect it deserves. I mean, Italy were great though. Let's not just say that Wales didn't turn up. Italy did turn up.
Really good. Yeah. Who's that fullback? Cappuccino, whatever his name is.
Cappuccino is his name. Yeah, yeah, he was phenomenal. Who Adams gave the man of the match to.
Yeah, that's a very sweet moment. But again, that smacks of lack of respect to me. Because if you've lost like a worthy opponent and you've won man of the match, you wouldn't be like, "Here you go, pal. Yeah. You can have this." It's the kind of thing you do to like your little brother, where you're like, "You've beat me once. You beat me once. Here you go, Honey Nut Cheerios for you." Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's got a patronising air to it. Well,
we'll see what happens in Rome in a year.
Yeah, where they lose all the games again. This is, I mean, something for them to hang on to for another 7 years.
Yeah, let's hope it's not one every 7 years. And I say that as a Scots fan. I mean, it does worry me.
Because the parallel to Scotland is that they used to beat England once every 10, didn't they? And that was enough.
Yeah,
that was enough to like hang on for the next decade.
Yes. But now Scotland can only beat England.
Yeah. It's an interesting flip.
Maybe that'll become the case with Italy and Wales.
Yeah, it's like their bogey team.
Yeah,
they just can't beat them.
Yeah, because of the centuries of bad blood between those two nations.
Famous rivalry. Joe Calzaghe's like, "Come on, boys, can we not sort this out, please?" Joe Calzaghe's ambassador for both. My father came here in the 40s, set up a fish and chip shop. I also love that because my Italian grandparents did a similar thing. They set up like fish and chip shops in Leeds, and they were like, I love that every Italian immigrant came to the country like, we can cook this food better than them. Even this a slop they make. It's going to be better than their slop. They put the fish in the batter. Oh my God, that stinks.
Well, why didn't they set up an Italian restaurant?
I think because
they just knew that Leeds people would go for pasta.
Still won't.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
they love stodgy carbs.
We do, and to be honest, Leeds.
I mean, that's the name you go by.
Yeah, stodgy carbs. Yeah. That's my Twitch streaming profile in case anyone's wanting to play Red Dead later.
I didn't understand a word you just said.
Twitch streaming profile. It's what you play online games
If you say so.
with the youths. It's one of the Italian under 20s are big into it.
Oh God, this running joke that you're a paedophile is going to come back and haunt you.
Yeah. Well, I think I've got the most. My face is my most plausible excuse. It's like I've got like that. I just didn't grow up. It's the Michael Jackson defense.
He's a child at heart is not a defense in court.
Oh. Oh, okay. Well, then I need to brief a lawyer.
The lawyer told you it is.
He said he was a lawyer. I met him in Westfield. Is that not a good place to pick up legal defence?
Well, what were you picking up there?
Well, he claimed he was getting clients. I thought it was very strange that he insisted on the bathroom being the meeting point.
Did you? Well, at least it wasn't the child's playpen.
No, because he can't stay within 50 feet of that either. So that put the kibosh on that meeting.
Look, enough talk about dirty old men. Let's talk about Eddie Jones.
Segues.
I want to say, because everybody has got the long knives out for him, and this statement from the RFU is ridiculous,
Isn't it?
But I think he's doing now what he should have been doing straight after the World Cup.
Go on.
And, well, after the World Cup, they absolutely shat the bed in the final.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't take 3 scrum halves to the World Cup. He didn't take an extra tight head. And both of those things stung him in the arse. And he didn't immediately start to develop. Ben Youngs was atrocious in the World Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
He passed into the crowd twice.
Twice, yeah.
And Eddie Jones didn't think, well, the first thing I do when I go back to England is start looking at some other scrum halves.
Yeah.
And he's finally turning things around. He's finally coming away from picking players that Lancaster did. And there is going to be, but it is late. He should have been doing it straight after the World Cup, but at least he is now doing it.
Yeah.
Because they were, for a while they were boring, but they were winning. Mm-hmm. And then they were boring and losing. And now at least they're interesting and winning, and there's something new, and they're green shoots.
Yeah, I thought the Slade and Marchant showed some interesting touches over the weekend.
Freddie Stewart is brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I understand what they were trying to do by playing Furbank at fullback, and they wanted Stewart further forward for some of his more.
Was Furbank there? I know. I saw his name on the team sheet. I'm not entirely sure if he was at the game.
Yeah, you can always tell that mustache leaves a mark. I can kind of understand what they were trying to do, but it feels like you're on a very simple level, just moving one of your best players out of their best position.
Yes.
Just felt like, why couldn't you just get Freddie Stewart chasing a few more kicks tactically rather than you have to play him out of position in order to do that?
Yeah, I mean, also what they lacked attack. That's what everybody's been saying the whole tournament. Mm-hmm. So why bring in a less attacking player? Yeah,
and also a very different player to Freddie Stewart. So it's obviously not like you're playing the same pattern or anything like that. You must be playing completely differently because you've got a distributing sort of tricksy fullback rather than a hard running rangy fullback, which means you've obviously got a different point of view on what that position is doing for you at a very simple level. The fucking thing that blew my mind was the Ellis Genge give it big lad.
Yeah, for the back of the field. Yeah, it was a very strange tactic, wasn't it?
Because I thought maybe they're doing that because they don't think Sam, because usually that's where your number 8 goes, right?
Yes.
So I wondered if they were like, Ellis Genge does that a couple of times, throws their French kicking game off, and it's consciously to put Sam Simmons somewhere else.
Right, yeah.
So they want to like play towards Sam Simmons, in the next phase. But they didn't. And it was just as simple as give it to the big lads.
Yeah.
And let the big lad truck it up, which feels a bit under 12s.
Yeah.
if you're gonna analyze it.
Where is the attack? I mean, Marchant's a good attacking player, but
it was nice seeing the centres getting to play like centres.
Yeah.
And be threats and not be like just extra pivot points for a fly half.
Yeah.
That was encouraging, I thought.
Yeah. Because who they really need is Esterhausen.
Yeah,
But it wasn't South African. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Because they need somebody to punch a hole in the middle of the field so that it because in rugby you're always really doing a play for the next play. The kick is to stretch the field. The big lad going up the centre is to try and get as many people that needed to stop him or ruck the ball in order for there to be less people in the next play.
Yeah.
For your attacking players to be able to spread the field. If you haven't got, because for all of Henry Slade's talents, punching a hole in the midfield is not one of them.
No.
And Marchant is good, and he's that hybrid between a centre and a winger. But he's not top level powerful amongst a big centre.
No.
So why in England don't we have any? Because it basically, we talked about this, and everybody has said this. When Mano Tuilagi isn't around, they've got no other answers.
No.
There must be some other big players.
Yeah, like Atkinson, but they never even looked at him though, have they?
No.
Because the try France scored just before half time, I think, is a great example of this. Yeah. So France, the attacker kind of stalled. They're in 10 metres out. The attacker kind of stalled a little bit, and Dante literally puts his hand up and just goes, "Give it to me." Just waves at Dupont, says, "Give it to me." Bit of footwork, go forward, big lad, just goes forward, quick ruck ball, and then they score 3 phases later in the corner. And that, when I was watching with my brother, I was like, that is what we don't have. We don't have that confident physical presence. Doesn't really matter where it comes from. It could be number 8, could be a 12, could be, I agree with you. It'd be nice to have an option there at 12, but even if it was an 8 or a 6, we don't really have that human who's like, just give me the ball, I will just get us 3 yards forward and get us moving quickly.
Simmons and Dunbrant can do that, but they don't seem to be using him in that way.
Well, do you not think Simmons he's not an elite level power player. He's got a lot to his game. I think Dunbrant is clever enough. Like, when he got held up over the line and he almost scored, that's what Alex Dunbrant brings. Like, he punches above his weight because he's so clever with his lines and his angles. And I agree. I think he can offer a huge amount. And I would have him in above Simmons.
Right, yeah.
But I think what Simmons can do for Exeter, he just can't do it at international level because, he's a half yard quicker than everyone at club level.
Right.
He's
not.
But he's not international level, yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? I don't know why they didn't use Dunbrant in that way, because it's such a shame he got held up on that.
Yeah, and with the new rules, obviously, I mean, you don't build pressure, you just get the hoofed back.
Is that a good new rule?
I was thinking that. I understand what they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop that Exeter style pick and go.
Right.
Or like driving mauls becoming so dominant because you keep getting held up over the line until eventually the team buckles. So it works to solve that, but in a situation like Dunbrant, you think, you want to be rewarded for, you're playing well, you're attacking, and then that's just nullified.
Yeah.
Tricky one. Did you see some of the reaction in the stadium afterwards?
No.
Oh my God. So they've brought a DJ into the Stade de France. So the DJ plays before and after the games.
Right.
And they start doing this really cool thing before the game where they'll announce the players by going like, Antoine, and then the crowd goes, Dupont!
Oh, they know.
And yeah, because they're like, Roman, and the crowd goes, Antomac! And it creates this like crazy environment.
Does he not play afterwards if they lose?
The DJ?
Yeah.
I think he just plays like a sad waltz. Just like Beethoven, G major, just something minor key. Or G major, A minor, something reflective. Yeah. But like, fans didn't leave for like an hour. Yeah. And what was really cool, in an old school rugby move, seeing players like run back onto the pitch, like in a state of undress with like beers in their hands, like high-fiving the crowd. Like, that's like old school rugby. And it's so cool to see the best team in the world currently is like embracing that side of the game.
Yes.
Just like, have a few cans.
Get naked.
Get naked. If in doubt, have a few cans, get naked. Is that a defending call? Can I use that one?
I'm a rugby player.
Is that part of it?
Why were you drunk and naked? I'm a rugby player. Fair enough.
Fair enough. You're off. You're out. Yeah, maybe. Because I thought that was so cool. The way this French team has been brought into the public's heart, and apparently, by all counts, Dupont and Smack Aldry have as much fame in France as like Pogba or Mbappe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about netball, so I don't know who that is.
my handball knowledge is limited. Isn't that weird that sports never took off anywhere outside of like Central and Eastern Europe? It's really fun. Have you watched handball at the Olympics?
I haven't, though.
It's like the game in PE you would invent.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like we've got these dodgeballs here, and we're sort of like playing rugby, but we don't really want to smash each other on the gym floor.
Well, that's cowardice.
Handball, rugby for cowards. That's the new marketing campaign.
Not brave enough to play rugby and not have enough skill to play football.
Handball. So rather than seeing it as the perfect hybrid of two, it's actually the worst.
I think we found out why it hasn't caught on.
Yeah, there we go. Solved.
Next.
David and Thomas. Solve sporting mysteries.
So what do you think about this statement for the RFU?
I think it just reads like a bunch of... I mean, it was interesting that they didn't put a name on it.
Yes.
So, like, we back Eddie. We think he's made progress. Which,
we, the undersigned.
Yeah.
No one is signed under.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the name? Is it the bottom? And I think just the words they use, like progress. So, just objectively, there is no progress because you won 2 games last year. You won 2 games this year. You've scored fewer tries this year.
Yes, but I'm going to defend it a bit. I think they are a better team than they were last year.
In terms of
passion, excitement, general sort of. They were a weak string of piss last year.
And the way they were playing with the just kick chase, was
it was a way that would less people will be playing rugby in 10 years' time if England continued to play that way.
Yeah.
Because they make the sport look boring.
Yeah.
And so, who are you ultimately doing it for? For the fans. The fans pay your wages. The fans, and what you were describing in France, this idea of this unity between players and supporters, and Eddie just going out again. I think they won't care. It's boring if they win, and they did. They were boring and won for a bit, and then they were boring and lost for a bit.
Yeah,
and we went, oh, how about we just at least try to play?
Yeah,
and they did try. I think
they did, and I think
that's terrible.
But this is the thing, David. This is the thing. Whenever anyone tries to make an excuse, they're like, "Well, they give it a good go, didn't they?" And it's like, yes,
but last year they didn't give it a good go.
Well, they probably gave it a good go physically.
Yeah.
It just probably didn't translate. It doesn't translate to passion the same way. There was like very visible examples of passion in this campaign, like Ellis Genge being asked to do everything and manfully doing it, and only giving away. Like that's.
Maritoji's got even better.
Yeah, and Jamie George I think's had a massive resurgence, and Will Stewart coming in on tight head. Like all these players have Carl Sinclair back to his best. Like they're all bright spots. Henry Slade looking, there are Freddie Stewart. Obviously, there are big bright.
Courtney Law's just inhumanly good
for that long as well.
Yeah.
He made his debut in 2008.
Yeah,
that's wild. But I do think that Eddie Jones in particular trying to bully up England. We've had a good campaign because we showed a lot of spirit. That's like again, that's like under 13s amateur rugby kind of chat. That's not. Bearing in mind, do you remember after the World Cup, after the 2019 World Cup,
he said that he wanted them to be the best team in the world
ever. He said our goal is to be the best rugby team ever.
But he should have started developing young players then. He keeps on going about these players being unexperienced and it's a new side. One, it's only 1/3 of the team that's new.
Yeah.
And 2, they're the same age as the core of the France team. It's just the France team started to blood their talent so much earlier.
Yeah, at club level as well as international. Like Antoine Dupont was playing for Castling at 18, which makes a huge difference. Yeah. He's getting to play, men's rugby a lot sooner. I think this whole like World Cup obsession is such an easy talking point. I don't think coaches even believe it half the time. It's just like if they had a bad tournament, like you wait until the World Cup. But the idea that you are just building up to like 4 games and you're not building a pattern of behaviour. Like New Zealand and South Africa don't take games off.
No.
And the best teams in the world, when they're really on the way to winning a World Cup, Australia in 99, England 2003, they don't, it's not like we're terrible and then miraculously 6 months before World Cup we start playing well.
South Africa did last. They were terrible.
They
were terrible until the World Cup final.
And then England, I guess, to argue against myself, England in 2018 weren't very good, and then were very good for 3 or 4 games. For 3 or 4 games.
1 game.
In 2019. But again, it's a very one game.
First 10 minutes of that game, and then held on for dear life.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I think. I mean, I know you. I think you're actually making a really good point. I think both South Africa and England could have easily lost that tournament, lost that final, and then like what were the last 4 years about?
Yeah.
I thought Chris Jones, he was being facetious, but I thought it was a really funny point that what do we do in the meantime? Do we just give all the fans discounts on tickets?
Yeah.
Like if you're a comic and you're like, come see my work in progress show,
It's cheaper.
it's cheaper
Yeah.
because it's not finished, right? So like, if Eddie Jones is insistent that like,
The Six Nations is all work in progress.
then can we have tickets at 20 quid, please?
Yeah.
If that's the
Makes
case.
a lot of sense. Mate. The Six Nations shouldn't be a warm-up tournament.
No.
It's the Six Nations. It's one of the, I love the Six Nations. I love the culture of the Six Nations.
Yeah.
In some ways, more than a World Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think the frequency of, it's like familiarity breeds contempt sort of thing. Like the frequency with which you're playing these teams really gives you like a depth to the rivalry,
Yes.
a meaning to the rivalries,
Yes.
rather than just like we might be playing a team we haven't played for years in a pool game. It doesn't have the same. And also, well, let's be honest, Rugby World Cups, nothing really matters until the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Oh, that's to Ireland.
Yeah, and Scotland,
Yeah.
for that matter, kill for a quarterfinal. But for us English folk, it is like it's only like last 3 games of the tournament that really make a difference anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas
I get very passionate about playing the Ivory Coast.
no, not when it's you can have a cricket score,
Yeah.
easy peasy. Danny Kerr was. I remember him saying to me once that like I think his World Cup caps are only ever against Uruguay. He has like 2 World Cup caps against Uruguay. It's like, yeah,
For
it
fans
is.
who've had such a long career.
No Lions caps and 2 World Cup games, both like cricket scores.
Wow.
Yeah, no good. What do you reckon Eddie's saying to those players in camp the next time they're together? Do you think they must still believe in him, right? The players must still.
Yeah. I mean, he seems to bring people in very quickly and then dismisses them again, which
Yeah,
I think he should have developed. I come back to the fact that he should have started with a clean piece of paper. I don't mean like not giving anybody a cap from 19, but he should have started again and brought through a bunch of new players and given them a few times, because now he's saying it's all about the World Cup and the World Cup is just over a year away. Well, if it was all about the World Cup, you should have started after the World Cup.
Yeah. Do you know what, mate? I cannot wait for that press conference. If England, because obviously they have to win the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
To be successful, to justify all this, they have to win the World Cup. So I can't wait for that press conference when it's a quarter-final exit or a semi-final exit. I just can't wait for whatever he's going to say.
I think it's, yeah. Yeah, well, mate, there's another World Cup in 4 years' time.
Yeah, and I'll be
Judge me on that.
Yeah, I'll be managing Wales during that period of time.
I wonder, because did he say something about that? It took him like 5 years to emotionally get over losing the World Cup final to England when he was Australia's coach.
I think it's like his white whale, isn't it?
Yeah.
And his maniacal personal desire to win a World Cup as a head coach, almost like distempers everything around him.
I wonder how he, or in the cold light of day, will think, because he is the Trump. We've talked about this, that he just says lies just to sort of like put out his truth. And surely if you got him alone, he'd be like, fucking out of control, mate. I have no idea what's going on. Yeah.
Freddie Steward's going to play 6 in the next game.
6 positions, then.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I wonder if he's in like a in his personal moments, he's in like a death spiral, or because I would imagine one of his arguments for why he focuses on the World Cup is like, oh, it's all very well and good England winning the Six Nations, mate, but like the big tournaments out there. Whereas under his tenure, it is boom and bust.
Yeah.
So like, you win 2 games, you win 2 games, 3 games, or you win the whole thing. And that isn't. Cause I could understand if it was like, yeah, we're still winning Six Nations titles, maybe not Grand Slams, but we're still winning Six Nations titles pretty regularly. But then the goal is to kick on from that into a World Cup.
Yeah.
But he's made us worse at the thing we used to be good at.
Yeah.
And you're still, lost in a World Cup final.
It's beggars belief, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Andy Farrell's in a much happier place.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we should talk a little about Ireland. I mean, they look in pretty good nick, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think I think it would have been so interesting if they'd have played France last rather than first.
Yeah.
Because I think Ireland have really grown as the tournament's gone on. I think they've really started to believe in this game plan, and the players are executing it really well. And I think if they'd have had France last, I think that'd have been very tasty.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still think France is better than them, though.
Me too. I just think it would have been like a much more competitive. I mean, the first game was
a competitive game. It was a brilliant game. All this doom and destruction about England. It was they went toe to toe with the best team in the world.
Oh, of course they did. Oh, sorry, I meant the Ireland France game at the start of the tournament.
Oh yeah, that was pretty dreary.
And I think, if they'd have played last, it would have been very, very exciting. But you'd be thrilled if you were Ireland. I mean, they've found like an identity. It's modern. It uses the best of their best players.
I just think it would be still because they've never won a knockout game in the World Cup ever.
I know.
It'd be kind of funny if they didn't win one next time.
Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? All this prep.
So cruel.
Yeah, I know.
And they get spanked by Australia.
It's some sort of curse. We have a curse against us. We can't win in the quarterfinals. It's brutally tough for that team to be so good in between World Cups, and then it comes to the tournament like, nope.
That Keith Wood. Keith Wood's probably my favourite player of all time. The Irish and Lions and Harlequins hooker. Outside of his in 1999, I thought, this is their year. And then they didn't even get to the quarterfinals. It was that one year that there was the people that didn't win their group had a second. There was like a round 1.5. They only did it in one World Cup. And they lost in that round. So they didn't even get to the quarterfinals. Yeah. And I was like, but they've got some of the best. They had Brian O'Driscoll, Keith Wood. It was an amazing side. And they still didn't manage it.
Yeah. And they had a great side in 2003 as well. And they lost to Argentina, didn't they, in the group stage? Before Argentina were a sort of powerhouse in world rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It would be hilarious. Sorry, Irish fans. But it would be fucking hilarious.
And as a Scot, I have to take my joy where I can.
Because you guys are in the same group, aren't you?
Yes.
So imagine if you spoil Ireland's...
It's not going to happen, is it? Yeah, it's South Africa, Scotland, and Ireland. So Scotland are fucked.
Fucked, aren't they? Like, how do you... If you're Gregor Townsend... presumably
What do you mean if?
He reveals his face mask. If Gregor Townsend takes Scotland to the World Cup, what's he legitimately like, not the party line you give people, but like in your depths of your soul, what are you thinking going into that pool?
Well, yeah, I mean things don't look good, but I don't know if I've got rose-coloured glasses. I don't think Scotland or England are that far away, despite having horrific World Cup Six Nations. They have had horrific Six Nations. I'm not coming away from that, and I don't want to sound like Joe Judge last year with the Giants saying, "Oh, we're not that far away," but I do think. I mean, it did show that without Van der Merwe, Scotland doesn't have any. Really, I mean, Darcy Graham's a great little player, but he is a little player.
Very little player.
And as the last coach of the All Blacks, what's his name?
Steve Hansen.
Steve Hansen always says, problem is that on any given day, a good big player will beat a good small player. And Darcy Graham is a great little player.
Yeah.
But when he came up against those Irish backs, he just couldn't get anywhere.
No way. Yeah.
And Douan is, it seems to be their only weapon of size.
Yeah.
And he's getting a red card for Gloucester and having to sit out the last 2 weeks really exposed. I suppose he's Scotland's Manu.
He is, and I think the other interesting impact he has is when he's not there, Stuart Hogg overplays massively.
Right, yeah.
Because I think Anki feels like he has to do... I think that's one of Stuart Hogg's Achilles' heels anyway. That he feels like he has to do too much.
Yes.
But when Douan's not there, that goes into overdrive.
Yes. Yeah. And there was I saw an incredible try that he did against Ireland on social media this week, and I just went, yeah, he hasn't got that pace anymore, has he?
No. No, and he hasn't developed the other bits of his game. So he hasn't developed the guile. So when fullbacks get a bit old, usually they get like their ball skills get better, their positional sense gets better. And the more this tournament's gone on, the more I'm like, I think they have to get rid of him as captain.
Really?
Yeah.
A friend of mine, exactly the same Irish American as I talked about in a previous episode. He said that he thought that he's a great athlete, but not a great captain. I think it's the other way around. I don't think he's a great athlete. I think he is a great captain. He's a great all-round rugby player.
Interesting.
And good man and good egg. But he just doesn't have the pace that he had as a younger man anymore.
Well, interesting that he was one of the key players breaking that curfew.
Was he?
Yeah, it was him, Ali Price, Finn, and one other player who broke that curfew between this game and the Italy game. It's Italy game. Which, to be honest, I don't blame the players. I blame the rule. Like, what do you mean you can't have a beer after a game?
Yeah.
What a ridiculous rule to impose on yourself.
Yes.
That's mental.
I mean, there's still worries about people getting COVID, isn't there? It's not entirely.
Yeah, apparently that was part of it. But still, I don't know, man. Like, if the general public's allowed to do something, it's very hard to ask a playing group not to do something.
Yeah. But equally, if a member of the public gets COVID and they're not the linchpin to their national side, slightly less consequences.
Despite what Dave down the red line tells you, you are not essential to the fortunes of your national sports team.
Yeah, you're not essential to anything.
Anyone.
No one will miss you.
Just the bridge is that way.
Wow. Yeah. I just to round up, I think there are exciting things about Scotland. There are exciting things about England, but there is no getting away from the fact that they both had god-awful tournaments.
God-awful tournaments, and I agree. The Joe Judge thing is a really good parallel because I think it's very tempting. When you're in elite level sport, I think it's always very tempting to say, like, we're close because you see in training how good the players are and you see what they're capable of. Obviously, elite level sport, it comes down to tiny, tiny margins. So not being that far away can be 15 points, can be 12 points. And it's what's challenging about sport, it's what's exciting about sport, but it's what's fucking difficult. And interestingly enough, I think in the NFL at the minute, there is a similar thing going on with this quarterback carousel. Yeah. So you see Deshaun Watson's now signed for the Browns.
Yes, in one of the most horrific moves in civilized society. Just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, speaking of, thought the RFU statement was bad. The Cleveland Browns statement, Cleveland Browns statement reads like, "Oh, has he done something wrong? Has he? Did he?" So obviously, Deshaun Watson's had allegations of certainly sexual assault and sexual misconduct alleged against him, settled in a civil case rather than criminal case. But the Cleveland Browns statement was, "We understand there are a few legal issues around Deshaun, and we will allow those to be solved in the judicial system." But it's the language of like, we understand that there's like something, we've heard something.
Yeah.
Rumours.
Well, I mean, I don't know the details myself, as in, and as most of the people commenting it don't know the details.
Yeah.
There was something highly suspicious of, he said he never wanted to play for the Texans again and slagged off the ownership, and these sexual allegations came out the next week.
Yeah.
And the fact that half of the women that piled on at the beginning have retracted their statements. So I'm sure that he I don't think that there's no smoke without fire type thing is a trite saying.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a very high chance he's not been a very pleasant person. But equally, what happened to guilty until innocence? The weird thing is he's got a pay rise for all of this.
Oh yeah. I think his averaged earnings are gonna be like $43 million a year or something.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he probably is going to have to sit out the first year.
So this is the thing. So I reckon Cleveland might keep Baker because Baker Mayfield immediately requested a trade.
Sure.
But Deshaun Watson might be missing. They haven't decided what his suspension is. So they could keep Baker Mayfield for 6 games, and the trade deadline is week 6. So they could keep Baker Mayfield for 6 games.
What do you do if you're Baker Mayfield? Do you use those 6 games to be the best shop window possible to get a trade, or do you just go, fuck you, and sit out?
I know what you should do, and there's what I think he will do.
Okay.
So what you should do is be the shop window, because it doesn't help you to be angry and surly or whatever. You know, if you've got a chance to put up some numbers and be attractive to a team, because loads of teams need quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And if you put up good numbers and you show that, like, hey, it wasn't me, it was a team.
Yeah.
I'm capable of doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
NFL has a very short memory. You know, someone's going to take a chance on you. If you sulk and pout and don't play, don't ball, then people are going to be like,
Don't ball.
I tried it on. I tried it on.
Didn't suit you.
Didn't work. It's like a fedora. That's the fedora of phrases. or like the colour orange. Looks good on some people, not on you. It's a linguistic orange suit. But I think if he chose to not play well, then a lot of people, I think he could go. This is the interesting thing about the NFL is there's so many careers where, like, this guy was the hottest thing, best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And then 18 months, you're like, he's not even on a practice squad.
Yeah.
And it can happen that fast.
RG3.
Yeah, absolutely.
Greatest rookie
Season ever.
of anyone ever.
Yep.
And that is the only season he's really ever had.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously he got some horrific injuries, but even taking injuries away, so many players have like a bright moment in the sun and then 3 or 4 years later, just nowhere.
Is part of that because there is no second division?
Yes.
Because if there was a second division, they could fall off, go play in the second division, rebuild their confidence, their game, get fit and healthy, and have a second summer.
Yeah.
But because there's nowhere else to fall off to, quarterbacks, what do you do as a backup quarterback?
You throw a lot in practice, don't you?
Yeah.
And you run the scout team usually, so you run the opposition team.
But you don't get an opportunity to ball.
No balling. Limited balling. There you go. We got the episode title. Limited balling. sounds like me on a Friday night. Limited balling. Medium, mid ball.
Mid to big balls.
Mid to big ball. Mid to big ball. Yeah. So I think that's going to be fascinating because Baker Mayfield contractually has to stay with Cleveland unless they release him.
Right.
So,
I mean, they fuck this up so much. So they make a play for Deshaun Watson. Then before they know whether this play for Deshaun Watson is going to go well, they insult Baker Mayfield saying we're looking for an adult. We don't mind if that adult is a rapist. But so then Baker says, well, I want to transfer. They then failed to get Deshaun Watson, mainly apparently just because he didn't want to go to Cleveland. But then they realise they've now insulted their present quarterback, made a public play that they're willing to have a sex offender, but the sex offender said, I think I've got better standards to play for you, mate. So they then have to absolutely sell the farm and give him the biggest contract that any player's ever had in his life and give them two first-round picks for a player that's not going to play.
yeah.
It's the most...
Cleveland thing.
Yeah. I feel for their fans, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a rough go when you've gone from winning no games to like winning a couple of games to being playoff team.
Yeah.
And you're still the third.
And beating your neighbours.
And yeah, exactly. Beating your neighbours, and then you're still like the fourth best team in that. I mean, maybe Pittsburgh now that Ben's gone, but yeah, being a Cleveland. Also, Cleveland is a depressing place at the best of times.
Baker should go to Pittsburgh.
That'd be great. Do you know what? That'd be the most Baker thing because that's like the chippiest, cuntiest thing you could do.
Yeah.
And that feels right for him.
Oh, please let it happen.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Oh, God.
Do you think, but your boy, you love Mike Tomlin.
I do.
So do you think Mike Tomlin would do anything other than laugh at the idea of Baker Mayfield being in charge of his offense?
It's better than what he's got.
He is, but I think because Mike Tomlin's in a unique position in the league where he has job security that other coaches just don't have.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Never having a losing season gives you that.
Helps. Definitely helps. That, my friend, is balling.
Eddie.
Yeah. Not balding. Balling. So I think that of all the coaches in the league, he could ride out a year or two while they figured out a draft situation or, a longer term trade that was more strategic for them. I don't think of all the teams in the league, they have to go like, right, he's the only guy available to play this position.
Yeah, well, but Baker's not that bad though, is he?
Well, the thing is, I was always a big fan of his coming in. He did so well at Oklahoma, and he played in a pro system there. And when he's really good is when he's got a running game, and he's built off play action pass.
Right.
That's when he's really good. Limited options, just pick the right option, arrows. Where he goes awry, I think, is when he asks the coach for more responsibility and the coach says yes.
Right.
So he would...
Well, I don't think Tomlin would say yes.
And Baker might agree. But he also might have this level of ego that's just like, nah, I'm the guy who broke.
I don't know if he is that. I don't think he...
Do you not think? I think Baker's ego is out of control.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He seems like I think he's going to end up being a good coach one day, because I think he's got this thing where he can see the game, but his physical limitations don't allow him to execute some of the things he can see.
What do you think his physical limitations are?
Well, he's got, he's a shorter dude. He's got his arm strength isn't as, he hasn't got the velocity some of the guys have got. Hasn't got just the physical stature to stand there and like throw off platform, take a hit. But I think the way he sees the game, obviously he thinks he can do some of those things, but just not physically always capable of delivering. Whereas when you put him in a situation where it's like you got two options, just hit the open guy.
Right.
He's got great accuracy. So if he could swallow that pride and play that way. But then again, I'm not sure what Pittsburgh's running game is going to be like this year, right?
Yeah, I don't know who's they're going to be running it.
So, well, good offensive line, and that basically is the decision factor. Because you can pick any college running back and like stick him behind a good offensive line.
That has become evident, isn't it? I mean, if you go to the terribleness of the draft pick that is Saquon Barkley. That is how you pronounce his first name. What did I just call him? Saquon.
Yeah. I think he's a starter in a restaurant. I don't know.
I'll have the Saquon.
Yeah, exactly. Saquon Barkley.
Him.
Yeah. A baller. Yeah.
Absolutely a baller, but a good running back in a shit team is useless. Whereas if everything else is right, you pretty much can put anybody together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like I actually watched Saquon at Penn State, and he's like head and shoulders, athletically better than everybody else, and that just doesn't translate to the NFL. You're never going to be athletically that much better than the defensive end you're trying to outrun, or the cornerback you're trying to get around. So yeah, I agree. It was a ridiculous pick, almost as ridiculous as Daniel Jones. A year later, I think I wonder like when do you think the NFC East is gonna recover? / is it ever gonna recover?
I mean, people. I mean, they're in a shambles at the moment, but they still have more more Super Bowl victories than anybody else. They're the only division that all four have won a Super Bowl.
True.
So they still are but they're a shambles at the moment.
But they feel like they feel like the broadcast television or the manufacturing industry of the NFL, where it's like in the 80s and 90s we were a big deal.
Right. I see. Yeah.
And then there's always like cool West Coast kids who moved the game on a little bit.
Yeah.
Instagramming their way to success.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a good point.
Yeah. I'm gonna be fascinated to see. Although the one team on the East Coast I feel most sorry for, well, the fans I feel most sorry for, is the Jets.
Right.
Not just because they're terrible, but because of all the people when Tom Brady unretired, of all the fan groups, that Jets nation must have been like, no, he's back. You can't do this to us. It's been 23 years. You have to just fuck off.
We've got over this. I'm glad he's back because I want to see him be shit.
Yeah.
I was devastated that he got to retire on top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would be fun if Tampa were terrible, but similar to the Jets scenario, the rest of that division is not great. Like the NFC South is just not too hot. So, like Carolina are rubbish. Saints are Sean Payton's just like throwing the towel in.
Yeah, what is going on down there? Because the Saints and the Falcons have to live with the fact that they tried to get a sex offender and didn't.
The only thing worse than hiring a sex offender at quarterback
is having a sex offender tell you
No. No.
Not you.
You do not align with my values. I thought that about I saw, you see, Philip Morris pulled their cigarettes from Russia, and I thought, you fucked up when Big Tobacco's like, this does not align with our values.
Yeah.
Similar thing. Yep. Right, the only other couple of things going on in the NFL, just remember to wrap up. Kyle Shanahan massively pumping up Trey Lance.
Yeah, I mean, these are tropes of the off-season, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're going to be our stock in trade for the next 5 months, unfortunately. But yeah, saying he's seeing the game faster and he's doing amazing things in training.
Yeah.
You don't even need to save your oxygen.
Yeah, maybe Kyle Shanahan's gone to the Eddie Jones school of public speaking, where you just like pick a fictional thing you would like to be true and just say it. Just say it. Just say it. Trey Lance can hit laser beams with his eyes.
I really would like sports coaches to stop reading The Secret.
If you manifest it, it will happen. Great. Perfect. That's been another episode of Odd Shaped Balls. Thanks very much. Cheers.